How does a single wrong turn by a confused driver lead to the death of 20 million people? We are often taught that World War I was an inimitable explosion of complex alliances and imperial tension. But history's most devastating fire wasn't lit by a king, a Kaiser, or a general. It was lit by a series of tactical errors so simple, so avoidable, and so profoundly human that they feel like a glitch in the fabric of reality. This was not a defeat on a battlefield. It was a strategic blunder of administration and a catastrophic collapse of security protocol. Today, we dissect the anatomy of the wrong turn that handed the 20th century over to the fires of war. The year was 1914. The setting, Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was arriving in a city that was a ticking time bomb of nationalist fervor. The military command was well aware of the threats. Intelligence reports suggested that Serbian extremists were planning an assassination. Yet the first, and perhaps most arrogant blunder of the day, occurred before the Archduke even stepped off the train. Despite the high-risk environment, the security presence was shockingly thin. The local police were uncoordinated, and the military guard was kept at a distance to avoid appearing hostile to the local population. It was a classic case of political optics being prioritized over tactical reality, a fatal mistake in any high-stakes environment. On the morning of June 28th, the first failure of the day manifested. As the motorcade moved toward the town hall, a nationalist named Nedelcho Chabrninovich threw a bomb at the Archduke's car. By a stroke of luck, the bomb bounced off the folded convertible top and exploded under the car behind them, wounding several officers. In any modern security protocol, this would have triggered an immediate and total evacuation. The mission would be aborted. But here, the human failure shifted from the security team to the Archduke himself. Shaken but defiant, Franz Ferdinand insisted on continuing his scheduled appearance at the town hall. He chose to maintain the illusion of control rather than acknowledge a decisive defeat in his security perimeter. After the town hall meeting, a decision was made that should have saved his life. The Archduke decided to change the itinerary. Instead of continuing the planned route through the crowded city streets, he wanted to visit the hospital to check on the officers wounded by the morning bomb. It was a humane gesture, but the execution of this change was a logistical disaster. In the chaos and adrenaline following the first attack, a critical communication gap emerged. The military governor, Oskar Potiorek, failed to formally and clearly brief the lead driver on the new route. There was no map synchronization, no radio contact, and no double-checking of the path. The plan lived only in the heads of a few men, and it never reached the hands on the steering wheel. This leads us to the most haunting what-if in history. The motorcade set off again, but the lead car, following the original, discarded plan, turned right onto Franz Josef Street. The Archduke's driver, Leopold Loika, followed the lead car, unaware that he was driving straight into the heart of the original trap. General Potiorek, riding in the car with the Archduke, suddenly realized the mistake. He shouted at Loika to stop. He told him he was going the wrong way. Loika, confused and under immense pressure, slammed on the brakes. But the car, a 1911 Gräf Stift, had a primitive mechanical design. It did not have a functional reverse gear that could be engaged quickly. As Loika struggled with the gears, the engine stalled. The car came to a dead stop. In a city of thousands of streets, in a day filled with chaos, the car stopped exactly 5 feet away from Gavrilo Princip, one of the original assassins who had earlier given up on the mission and was standing outside a deli, contemplating his failure. Princip didn't have to hunt his target. The strategic blunder of a forgotten route and a stalled engine delivered the Archduke directly to him. 2 shots were fired. The Archduke and his wife, Sophie, were killed. This was not a victory of a superior rebel force. It was a decisive defeat caused by a failure of communication and a mechanical stall. The gears of a car failed, and in so doing, they engaged the gears of a global war machine. The aftermath was a chain reaction of arrogance. The empires of Europe, blinded by their own treaties and egos, rushed into a conflict they believed would be over by Christmas. They ignored the data of modern warfare, machine guns, heavy artillery, and trenches, thinking their traditional strategies would prevail. It was a collective strategic blunder that resulted in the collapse of 4 empires and the redrawing of the world map. We look back at Sarajevo not just as an assassination, but as the ultimate warning. It shows us that the most sophisticated systems of power are still vulnerable to a single point of failure. A driver who wasn't told the truth, a car that couldn't go backward, a leader who wouldn't listen to the threat. History isn't always written by great movements or grand designs. Sometimes it is written by the signatures of men who thought they were too powerful to fail, right until the moment they took a wrong turn.